Well, welcome everybody. Janet Harvey here with Be the Cause of Life on Purpose, our daily Facebook Live with a little bit of inspiration and maybe a practice or two. And as you can see, our word for today is be the cause of affection. Now, some of you might be thinking, why would we be talking about love or that warm feeling we get when we say we think about somebody with affection or we're giving someone our affection? Well, I'm actually not. Well, that's really fun, absolutely. I want to talk about affect instead. And this is a much older kind of, even the dictionary calls it archaic. However, I think it sits underneath what all of us experience, but don't actually spend enough time thinking about or talking about or sharing with others about the affect that we have on each other. Every word choice, every nonverbal way of communicating, the tone and the energy with which we deliver a message to each other has an affect. In the neuroscience terms, we know that it can fire off chemicals. We can either give someone a reason to fire off cortisol, which is associated to anxiety, or we can give someone a reason to fire off dopamine, which is about being driven, or we can fire off oxytocin, which is a a warm feeling, a little bit like the common definition of affection. And so the question becomes, how alert and awake and present are we when we consider the way in which we're delivering the message? Are we being purposeful in the way that we think about affection? In other words, the affect that we are the cause of by the way we choose to show up and contribute to another person or a situation or a group. Maybe if you've been keeping track of current events on the news, you can see that there is a wide range of affect depending on what newscaster you're listening to and who you choose to allow yourself to examine as political candidates. House of Representatives people look different, then sound different, experience different than the senators, and then there's all the candidates that are running for office. So there's a lot here to affection that is impacting and influencing the way we experience our lives every day. And sometimes I think we take it a little bit too much for granted. I had the great privilege over the weekend to spend some time with colleagues from all over the globe in our field of coaching, and we were talking about cultural humility, which is a wonderful phrase. I think far better actually than cultural competence, because it puts the responsibility on me to be more available to experience the differences that another person has from my own in the way that they perceive and understand their life experience. And it helps me to suspend my habits and some of my bias, replacing it with curiosity. And I don't know about you, but for me, when I ask a question of someone who is describing an experience that I have no context for, or it's slightly uncomfortable, of course, to kind of be in that not knowing space. And yet, if I shift my relationship and I'm really curious about it, I always find myself rewarded. It becomes very reciprocal. We know that each other is different. And yet, rather than trying to fit in or in some way to assimilate, imagine being able to stay in a state of wonder, to give our affection to the difference, to invite through our curiosity and exploration that helps us to see, wow, my world is being broadened and deepened. I'm having an opportunity to realize that there's far more out in the world than the experience of my life up to that moment in time before I had an opportunity to be with that person. And so the practice that I'd invite you to be with for today as you're thinking about this word being the cause of affection is to move a little bit beyond the notion of fondness and perhaps exchanging good feeling, although I think that actually results, and start to examine the places where you find yourself reacting to difference in a more of a protective way, and see if in the moment that you catch it, you can pause and ask yourself, I wonder what question I might ask here that would help me live into the other person's world a little bit, and to bring a sense of wonder about how have they navigated in a way that's quite different from my own, so that I can begin to broaden my own way of having an affection for the diversity of our world. So have fun practicing. We'll see you tomorrow. Until then, be the cause of life on purpose.